My name is Yara Watson Cologne. I'm a sustainability specialist at the University of Central Florida. Sure. So UCF is a large public institution. We have over 13,000 employees, and as of last year, over 69,000 students and 225 degree programs for those students to choose from. With having such a large campus, and not just the main campus, but over 12 satellite and adjacent campuses like our medical school, our Rosen College of Hospitality, we have a lot of footprint. And so it's really important that we're cognizant of how we work within our Orlando community, our Florida community, and our global community. So my office, Sustainability Initiatives, was created to help assist with operational improvements as well as lift up curriculum integration opportunities. So we want to use the campus as a living laboratory. We have lots of really cool assets such as solar power generation that could be used as a teaching tool. So my responsibility is really uplifting those outreach opportunities, those curriculum opportunities, and those operational improvements. It's really varied, and that's really great about being a sustainability specialist is you are a generalist. You have to have a good sense of all facets of sustainability. That includes food and livability, energy, transportation. And so there's a lot of different programs that fall under the sustainability umbrella on campus. And so we really work kind of in a consulting capacity for the campus to help all of these departments improve their sustainability functions. One good example is when we were piloting micromobility on campus, or the Lime bikes, and we switched to a different vendor later on. But our office started with a small pilot to do some testing and get some student feedback. And then we handed that program off to parking and transportation services. So a typical day for me tends to look like checking in with operational improvements, such as working on the transportation program or increasing our recycling rates, so working with our housekeeping and recycling services for that, but also going into the classroom to assist professors and supplement some sustainability education. So I go into the classroom and teach a little bit about what sustainability professions are out there. I teach about how sustainability affects all types of professions, even ones we may not think about. So for example, they're teaching a lot of sustainability concepts in the Rosen College of Hospitality, because hospitality has a large impact on, the health of our earth and the health of our people. So I help with curriculum integration there as well. I would say my favorite and my least favorite are two sides of the same coin. So I mentioned that I'm very much a generalist and my days get to be extremely varied. I like to joke that my first day of work, I had a meeting with our CFO in the morning, and in the afternoon, I was on a canoe putting sensors on a floating solar panel. And so it can be really great to never get bored. But my least favorite part is the same, is you don't really get to become an expert in one specific subject. You kind of have to know a little bit of everything and be a connector for everyone. So sometimes that can be frustrating because, the type A in me really wants to be an expert in specific subjects, but there's just so much to know and so much to be engaged in that you kind of have to dabble a little bit, which makes for an interesting day. But you also have to make sure you're tapped into the experts who are out there so you can connect them with the community. So I actually started off as a marketing major at the University of Florida. And the University of Florida has a great business school, a great program. And I just wasn't finding fulfillment in my classes, and I wasn't seeing the direction I was going to go in. I was a first generation college student, and I really had it in my mind that I was going to kind of go a corporate route to continue to help uplift my family and make my family proud, but I wasn't finding fulfillment there. And so I started to dabble in a couple of extra curriculars and supplemental courses, and I took an intro to sustainability course kind of on a whim, and just fell in love with what I was engaging with. And it was really speaking to some of these concepts and feelings I didn't have language for. I'm Puerto Rican and Black, and I grew up in Detroit and then Kissimmee, Florida, and I really didn't have a lot of engagement with the outdoors. But I was, on the periphery of aware of the strain our earth was feeling and the social disconnects in our urban environment, and how Black and brown bodies didn't have access to a lot of natural resources historically, and really felt the brunt of aspects like pollution. But I didn't have the language for it, and so suddenly I was getting education that was speaking to my experience and some of the qualms I was feeling with my experience. And so I picked up sustainability studies as a minor and had the opportunity to study abroad in Costa Rica for a short spring break trip studying renewable energy. And I really fell in love with the pura vida, the pure life mentality of Costa Rica. They have a really high, at the time, I believe it was over 90% renewable energy usage if we're including hydroelectricity as renewable. And so that lifestyle really spoke to me, and I came back and switched my major to sustainability studies, but still keeping on that business administration and marketing concepts, as well as dabbling in some agriculture as a minor, to really give me a holistic understanding of sustainability concepts and give me a wide berth of what type of professions I could potentially go into. After graduating with the sustainability studies major with a business and ag minors, I went on to study global sustainability at the University of South Florida. And what I really loved about that program is they really promote global integration of solutions. And so I got to do my research abroad in Uganda, helping with integrated organic agriculture and pairing those demonstration sites with the organization I worked with the financial literacy program, because again, that finance and business aspect still matters so much to sustainability. And so I had the opportunity to work with marginalized groups such as orphans, widows of HIV/AIDS, and teachers groups. Ugandan teachers are among the lowest paid globally, and there's a lot of predatory lending, masked as humanitarian aid. And so I got to help with some financial literacy while teaching integrated organic agriculture there. And all of that brought me back home to the Central Florida region to work at UCF. I would say that, from my own experience, you come out of undergrad or grad school or even high school with a lot of passion for social change, for environmental change, for wanting to take action for the climate crisis and for the injustices we're seeing in the community. But when you're integrating into the workforce, there's this tension that we feel, especially when you're going into a workforce that's isn't very youthful. There's like an old guard mentality, and there can feel like there's a lot of roadblocks and a lot of people standing in your way of progress, and it can really be deflating. And you have to really focus on why you're passionate about what you're passionate about, or continue to find your passion and really build on the skills that are going to help you accomplish those goals. Sometimes they're not obvious. I didn't think that I would need to be so adept in, communicating climate science, for example, and that was a skill I had to build over time. So instead of becoming defeated about those roadblocks you're feeling and not feeling, that you as one person can make big change on these huge problems, narrow your vision and focus on those skills that you can build to accomplish those goals you want to accomplish. And surround yourself with people who build up and keep positivity. It's good to be, realistic about how you can approach certain solutions and what change we can see within our lifetime. But when you're surrounded by naysayers or gatekeepers, sometimes it's easy to become deflated. I'm pretty isolated in my work, where I'm the only specialist in my department. And so because I work in a consulting capacity for the campus, I get to go into different departments, but I don't necessarily have peers in my own department. And so sometimes, I'm feeling deflated and like we're not making enough progress fast enough. But then I can link into professional groups such as the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education or the International Society of Sustainability Professionals. And I can speak to people who are feeling the same way I am and who can still tap into that positivity to bring that positivity light to keep me moving forward. So to make that a little bit more succinct, make sure you stay focused on what your vision is, make sure you're skill building to reach those visits, and surround yourself with people who still bring positivity to your passion. So the last thing I'll speak to, I'll speak directly to those students who are part of marginalized groups, whether that be you're differently abled, a person of color, a woman, or your life experience is very different from those who you're surrounded by. In my perspective, I mentioned earlier, I'm Puerto Rican and Black. I'm young. I'm among the youngest folks in my amongst my colleagues. And sometimes the gatekeeping can be very defeating, and sometimes it's hard to, when you're working in the environmental field, when you start to recognize that these movements about sustainability and addressing injustices still have injustice within them. The environmental movement was historically prejudiced against people of color. So sometimes it's difficult walking that line of being a person of color working in a very white environment for me, and working sometimes with people who don't believe my cause or my concerns or the concerns of the people in my background need to be present. And so sometimes you'll hear buzzwords like a just transition, and that's because historically, even when we're looking for sustainable solutions, those frontline communities, those community of color, are disadvantaged. So sometimes, a manufacturing plant for a more sustainable technology will be put in a frontline community and there'll be pollution. So something that was supposed to be a sustainable solution ended up harming those communities. And so there's this line where you walk where, do I work within, a corporate type setting and try to make change from within? Do I work in a higher education setting where I'm trying to affect change in the next generation and building skills? Or do I want to work for a nonprofit that's not necessarily as beholden to corporate interests? And so you have to find what feels good within and what allows you to feel like you're working with dignity. And there's lots of different ways to do that, and there's no wrong answer. I don't think you're a sellout if you work in corporate America and sustainability, and I don't think you're a martyr if you work for a nonprofit with a low budget. You work within the construct that feels good to you and where you can feel like you can make the most positive change.